is just another video that shows you can't trust anybody, not even your landlord. Hope you're hydrating today. Drink your frickin' water. It's good for you. I know it tastes like literal air, but we need to do it. Put some cucumbers in it. That's what I'm doing, and you know what? It's pretty refreshing, I'm not gonna lie. Cheers. My landlord came to my apartment every month for the first 3 years to collect rent and check up on the unit. Was that allowed? I was his first and only tenant at the time, and obviously he was pretty intense about it. He finally agreed to me paying him via Venmo, but by then he considered our relationship a friendly one and started sending me wildly inappropriate texts such as, when was the last time you had an, I can't even say that word on YouTube. Let's call it an O. An O. Children, fast forward a few seconds. Despite the fact that he was married and I was very much not interested. He also got incredibly drunk while installing a new lock on my door one time and proceeded to push himself all over me with a very obvious, oh my gosh. I don't know what word to use for this, but it's like a hot dog being hard. Y'all know what I mean. When your pee gets pop in the tent. That's what I can say. It's when a man's tent is popped. He said, my college buddies used to call me Moose because my is so huge, while pressuring me to look at his he would come by randomly over the 8 years I rented from him. So you kept renting from this man? So I have a million awful stories, but I was young and afraid of retaliation. Example, rent increases, so I just put up with it. Worst part was that we worked and still work at the same place. Luckily, we don't work together directly though. Ugh. Oh man. Man, I get it. The fear of retaliation, rent going up, it's a lot to move. It's a lot easier to just say move out, but that's literally like harassment, and that's very concerning and disturbing. My junior year of college, a group of friends and I rented out some apartments that were dubbed the Solars because of the solariums that were attached to each apartment. Halfway through the school year, one of my roommates moved out and a new one took over his place. There was a 3-night window where our new roommate moved in and our old roommate waited for his parents to drive up on the weekend to help move him out. During that 3-day window, our old roommate staged his bed and furniture in the solarium for a few nights so our new roommate could move in. On the third night, around 1 a.m., a very large man let himself into our apartment while we were all sleeping and started screaming. He flipped our kitchen table, pounded on our doors, and stormed out. After calling the police, we found out that the man was actually the landlord, and the person we had met when we signed the lease was only the listing agent. When confronted by the police, the landlord told them that he had seen furniture in the solarium and was convinced we had squatters living there. The landlord demanded extra rent for allowing an additional person to sleep in the solarium. Furthermore, since there was a strange truck in the parking lot, our landlord went on to tell the police that this squatter living in the solarium must be running an illegal chop shop and using the truck to distribute the parts. What a wild assumption. The truck belonged to our roommate's parents, who had just arrived to help him move the next day. The next few months consisted of our landlord sitting in his car and watching our apartment from the parking lot. He continued to call us daily, demanding that we pay him $1,000 for the mystery squatter. We filed a police report for harassment and terminated the lease. As you should. That's the type of vending I want to hear. I don't want to hear, oh, I kept renting from them for 10 years. Like, oh, get the hell out of there, y'all. Y'all are crazy. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth your safety, your mental health. I'm telling you, it's not worth it. It's comical because he's literally just convinced himself of this massive story. Like, this is a squatter. He's got a business, an illegal one. He's selling things out of his truck. Like, he's just compiled this entire movie plot into his mind. That's very far from the truth. My landlord texted me asking if I could turn off a faulty alarm system in their building that happens to be outside my apartment. At the time, I was out of town at my brother's funeral. That's so sad. Even if I was in town, I cannot physically access it and do not know how to turn it off. All of which she knows. This was her response while I was at my brother's funeral. My brother died and I am in San Antonio for an undetermined amount of time. Unless this is an emergency, I don't have time to text about the alarm and unfortunately don't know anything about it anyways. The landlord writes, so no probably would have been a quicker response. Thanks. Thanks for being compassionate and caring. I appreciate your kind words. I'm happy you have enough time to be rude and sarcastic. Have you no heart? Have you no soul? Is it just all black and coal inside? What a miserable way to live. I cannot imagine someone letting me know this, even a complete stranger, and not in the least sending my condolences to that person. This landlord was really creepy. Perfect. One day he confronted me, wouldn't let me close the door, to ask me what my problem was. He said that I shouldn't be giving him an attitude because he was old enough to be my father and that I still had a lot to learn about life. I called him out for constantly being an a-hole for the smallest things. My rent was never late. I kept my space clean, did nothing to antagonize him, and didn't understand why he couldn't just leave me alone. That seemed to shut him up for a while, but until the day I moved out, I was always terrified he would break in and do something to me. That's terrible! The whole complex was creepy. The pool was coffin-shaped. The storage unit near the parking lot reeked of something rotten. One night, I heard a woman screaming while being chased by someone laughing manically. Some shady stuff was going on. I'm so glad to be out of there. Bruh. That is literally what you see in horror movies, true crime documentaries. We gotta protect ourselves. I understand. Those units are usually the cheapest. I have lived in very questionable, sketchy buildings. 2 of them. Pretty rough around the edges. Not great. My moldy ceiling came crashing down on my head in my shower. And let me tell you, it's not a great way to live. It's scary. I was also scared of one of my landlords because they have like a key to your unit, and I was like, I was a young 17-year-old living alone and he knew that, and I always thought, I'm like, oh, that's scary. Now, there are things, anyone out there who needs a PSA, there's a few different things that I use where you can like lodge the door shut. They have ones that just go on the side. So even if they can unlock the door, it's like, it's almost like, not those, it's like better than those little chain links. They're more strong, they're sturdy. Everyone out there, protect yourself. I lived in a room in a house where each room was leased as an apartment. Like each room? But we shared a tiny kitchen and bathroom. Each room has a gas heater mounted on the wall. I had a gas leak, oh my God, for days, so I called the gas company to turn my heater off in the middle of winter. When I told my landlord, he threatened to terminate the lease and said, never call the gas company. We do not let them into this building. WTF. Well, that's the biggest red flag if I've ever seen one. I feel like something sketchy's going on there. Illegally probably renting, like having each bedroom as an apartment. Don't think that's actually legal. Don't think that's how it works. Having a gas heater in each of those rooms, that just screams like huge risk to me. I don't know, y'all. The morning after my mom passed, I'm sorry. Her landlord, first thing in the morning, came by her apartment to ask me if I had found the rent check for next month. No, I'm sorry for your loss. Nothing, just did you come across a rent check? Listen, I understand. As a landlord, that's also your livelihood, maybe that is your career, that's your income. And the first thought might have been, oh my God, am I going to miss out on that money for a month? But there is a time and place for that. You didn't even give it a freaking second, not even a day. Let the dust settle before we ask questions about it. Even if you had to ask, the least you can do is send condolences, support, anything like that. Although I carefully documented minor cosmetic damage that existed before I moved in, my landlord still tried to withhold my security deposit and threatened to sue for additional charges. He had even signed off on the documentation, but he tried to claim I had forged his signature. Then he said that since I didn't get the oven professionally cleaned, he was going to charge me an extra $600. Oh, that's dramatic. Nowhere in my lease did it say I had to do that, and he was throwing them out anyway. I had seen other people move out in the months before mine, and they were and they were old ovens piling up outside the dumpster. I had to take him to small claims court to get my deposit back and for him to stop harassing me. Small claims court, baby. You really got to look into your rights. If you are renting out there, I'm telling you, I didn't know half of it. I've learned along the years. I've called the tenant board anytime I had a question about a possible case or issue. Tenant board, baby. There's a lot of rights that tenants have that they're not aware that they have them. This whole video is just like a PSA for renters out there. Just a reminder, if you are watching this video, drink your water. While I was working from home, we asked our landlord to take a look at the basement because it kept flooding. We thought he'd set up an appointment. Instead, he just walked into our apartment unexpectedly and unannounced with this handyman who we once found lurking outside our window. Okay, we're not gonna breeze past that fact. Just minutes after I finished an online meeting. When my partner confronted him about this, he responded by sending us a letter saying that I gave him permission to be in the house. Yeah, I gave him permission after he was already inside the house and said he was going to the basement. Thank God I wasn't in the shower or something. He proceeded to not return our full deposit despite doing a move-out walkthrough and confirming everything was fine. We are taking him to small claims court. Snaps and claps for everyone taking these people to small claims court. I bet there's some good content out there in small claims court. I might have to do some research. My landlord used my bath towels to clean up sealant, then threw them away. My house has had a very bad mold and dampness problem for as long as I've been living there. There's black mold everywhere, as well as huge cracks in the wall. And in January, my bathroom floor finally collapsed. The floor? That's terrifying. That's like a sinkhole. You could just literally fall through your molded floor. I just said this. Literally, my shower ceiling was so molded that I was literally taking a shower before one of my shifts at Tim Hortons one day, and it just went and crashed down onto my head. And I was just standing there with moldy ceiling everywhere, and I had to go to work. I've been having to shower at the gym since January and have been begging them to fix it ever since. It wasn't until we threatened to report them to the health agency that they finally got their butt into gear and came to fix it. I arrived home to marvel at the shiny new shower, only to notice all of my bath towels and flannels were gone. I looked in the bin and whoever fixed the shower used all of my towels to wipe up various different bits of sealant and this pasty looking stuff, then just chucked them away. Isn't that nice? That's great. No way. They better buy you some new ones. They better pay you for that. You know what? Fun fact, I'm just teaching you guys everything I've learned. But I learned that certain things like maintenance issues within a unit that you are renting, they actually have to deal with the issue and fix it by a certain amount of days. So make sure you are looking into that with wherever you live, with your tenant board. Okay. It's a thing. I once rented a studio apartment from a coworker who, when I went to move out, didn't want to return any of my security deposit because I was crappy to him at work. I was a supervisor and part of my job was keeping others on task and making sure our department's most important tasks were done first and foremost. I threatened to take him to small claims court and he returned my $650 deposit to me in crumpled 1s, 5s, and 10s. My guess is that he actually hadn't saved my deposit, but spent it and then had to hastily gather some money to pay me back and not go to court. Work was awkward after that. That would be awkward after that, especially because you're the supervisor, but they're the landlord. So they're like, well, I have power over you, you know? $650 in 1s, 10s, and 5s, that would be so annoying. Remember when we only lived with cash? Like that feels like so surreal to me. I'm like, there was once a point in time in my life when I didn't use a credit card or a debit card. I'm out of here, you guys. Stay classy out there, stay sassy, and I hope you learned something today. If you guys have any other tips and tricks for renters, because a lot of people are renting out there, put them in the comments because I could probably learn something more too. So let me know. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow.